Hello and welcome to today's daily news analysis. So today is 3rd of March 2022. We are covering the Hindu newspaper's daily edition. Now, as part of our initiative, I make it a point to share questions for mains answer writing practice, and the concept is very simple. You are reading this newspaper with an eye on the examination. So you need to know as to how questions can be asked. The mains paper is the one where you have to present your analysis. You have to write it in 250 words. You need to define things and so many other things, right? So all of this has to be done in that question answer format. So your analysis is done, and that is relevant to the examination. And in the course of time, naturally, when we are doing the analysis, I'll tell you these things are important for pre. This is how questions were asked in the previous years. And you are also, for writing your answers, you are researching, you will study about the schemes, measures, initiatives. So that will also help with your prelims, and since you have done this, your recall in the examination will be much better. In short, I want to say that this is going to be very, very beneficial for your current affairs. In fact, I'll tell you combined way also that in 3 months or 4 months, about 90 to 95% of the paper that is going to come in the upcoming mains exam will be covered. You will have your notes no matter when you are doing this exercise. Right. Now you can get your answers evaluated, and up to 2 answers per week. Now coming to the topics. So today early in the morning, I share questions. So I post them on the Instagram or on my on a YouTube community channel. So I shared 2 questions. So this was with reference to water bodies. In fact, a previous year question was also there, and with reference to the role of the governor, the friction between the office of governor and the elected representatives. So it is from this editorial. Then there was a previous year question that was in 2021, and there was a news on the functioning of the SHRC. Right, so this will do, and yes, interestingly, when we study or when we do that Lakshmikant and everything, so we focus on the central institutions, but we somehow undermine the state institutions. And state institutions are gaining more prominence in the recent times. So that again I'll discuss for prelims. And yes, again, routine, normal news. This was interesting. The scarcity of doctors in rural India and what can be done. So this I'll discuss. Now the case of vanishing water bodies. So irrespective of which city you live in, there are issues of either disappearance or deterioration of water bodies and wetlands in urban India. So this is not an uncommon thing, right? We are seeing this. I have this question, so I'm discussing this side by side. So this is a very, very common thing. Now this is a local news of Delhi, so we have reference of Delhi. Now see, imagine this is a city, right? This is this area of the city, and there's a big lake, and there are small lakes, water bodies, ponds, wetlands, whatever you want to call it. So there are these water bodies over here. Now what we are seeing in the recent times is that because this is ultimately land, water bodies, water is stored on a land. And this is where water is stored. Why is the water coming in that area? Because it will be a low-lying area. There will be depression. So it acts as a catchment, right? The water is getting cached. Okay. So what is happening is to use this land for commercial activities. This land is getting encroached upon. And you can guess the land mafia, sometimes we say politicians are also involved, right? So they are getting encroached upon. Then after encroachment, what we say is concretization is also taking place. So we are losing them. Or they are getting polluted with sewage. Let's say this is also there, but the household waste that is there, right? Or the industrial waste. So the sewage that is coming from there, the sewage, which is rich in nutrients, actually, this human waste, etc., rich in nutrients. So they are getting thrown, they are being disposed of unscientifically in the wetlands, because nobody cares. Right? You want your surroundings clean, but nobody cares as to what is happening in the nearby pond or the wetland. And you'll see that stink that is coming. Okay. So that is why there is disappearance and there is deterioration. So naturally, when this is happening, it will have a cost, right? It will have certain consequences. They played certain role, certain ecological role, certain ecological services that are beneficial to the mankind, to the urban environment. So that will get impacted. And what role does it play? So first of all, this article itself says, and I actually want you to learn as to how we can use the news itself to write the complete answer. Not necessary that you actually do all that analysis and read 5-7 articles before writing one. Okay. So these things play a very important role. They form a vital part of the hydrological cycle. They support the rich biodiversity. First of all, this wetlands, so these water bodies are there. So they're very attractive. So they attract birds, they attract, there is more vegetation, there may be animals, snakes, etc. So they attract rich biodiversity. They provide a wide range of ecosystem services, such as water storage. Water is getting stored, naturally water is there, that is why we call them as water bodies. So water storage. Now imagine when rains are taking place because of the depression, right? They act as an catchment, so the water is getting stored. And what will be the use of water storage? Water for drinking purposes, water for household activities. And in our country, we have, especially with this drought-like events that we have scarcity of water. 600 million of our population is water stressed. Okay, fine. Now, when water is stored, what happens when water is stored? What happens in your water tanks when you see what is the level of the water? You find that sediments are there at the lower level and there is cleaner water at the top. So what is happening? Water purification, right? And then you use that water. So the same applies here also, water purification. Now, when imagine there was a cloud burst, there was a lot of rainwater or water coming from a river, overflowing river. So when it comes into this urban environment, what will happen? These wetlands the water will get stored in the wetlands over here. So they will absorb the floods that were taking place. They will absorb the shock of that floods. So it will play the role of flood mitigation. And these days we are having more and more cases of urban floods, right? So flood mitigation, they act as a reservoir of the water. Okay. They play a role in erosion control. Water erosion can be stopped, of course, because of this. And microclimatic regulation. When there is more vegetation and water again stores heat, unlike land becomes hot, and you touch any surface of the land, it will be hot, it will be radiating heat after a point of time. But water takes a lot of time, right? It's a concept of specific heat, so water takes a lot of time. So the nearby environment or the microclimate is much more pleasing. So these are the benefits of your water bodies, and thereby we need to protect them. We need to take measures with reference to its protection. Now in this light, it says that the government has notified that to protect these water bodies, the government has said that we will define them under the wetlands, right? We will give them protection that is attributed to wetlands. That means there is some system of legal protection for wetlands, right? So this is there. In fact, we have something known as Wetland Conservation and Management Rules 2017. So the roles of the center, roles of the state with reference to wetland has been clearly specified. So that is there. So that will play a role in protecting them. Then we also have a national plan for conservation of aquatic ecosystem. So this includes even the wetlands and the water bodies in urban area. We also have international conventions, but somehow they don't seem very, very relevant at this point of time. Ramsar sites, that is sites of international importance. We can say actually, because we must try that there are huge water bodies or lakes. They can be classified under the Ramsar, so more protection will be provided. We also have the Montreux record. So those are also there. But what we find is that despite these measures, these initiatives, this is still happening. It is happening. That is why it is there in the news. So what can be done? That is the big question. But for this, again, you have to say that, see, these are the things that are there. Still, we are having this. You have to establish this with a line. So first of all, we need to fix responsibility. We need to strengthen the laws. These laws are not fulfilling, right? Now they're not able to the implementation is bad. So we need to strengthen the laws that are there and ensure that implementation is taking place. And who will ensure implementation? Yesterday we did something like Sevottam. And what was the concept? Public service delivery. Public participation. What we need to create is Jan Andolan, that civil society, public are aware, and this becomes a people's movement. People take a proactive role in conservation of water bodies in the nearby areas. And it is then that the apathy of the government that we see, or the acts of these land mafias, will be responded upon. Right? So this will pave the role of accountability. For this, we have to have more awareness and more representation of the environmentalist civil society organizations in the policy making of the urban areas. Right? Every city has their own urban policy bodies. So in municipalities, or with reference to these commissions on wetlands or these water bodies, we need to have more representation of these of civil society, environmentalists, etc. So that needs to be done. And yes, one more thing I like to add is that we have the National Green Tribunal. So a specialized court was formed for this purpose, and they have been playing an active role, and they also introduced the concept of polluter pays principle. Right, so fixing a cost on the polluter. So what can be done? You can add that polluter pays principle needs to be, it needs to be enforced upon. So no matter who that polluter is, be it the one who's putting the sewage, and who's putting the sewage? The government, right? Municipality. So action must be taken against them also. Okay, so we have this, and I have this means-based question over here, right? So this was asked. So let us do the thing, news, then I'll discuss the powers and functions of the State Human Rights Commission, and then briefly a question. Actually, that was not my aim to discuss this question only in the first place, but now I'm doing this. Okay, so we have the State Human Rights Commission, which tells the state of Tamil Nadu to pay rupees 2 lakh for arresting a girl who raised slogans against Prime Minister Modi when she got into an argument with the BJP president of Tamil Nadu, Tamilisai Soundarajan. Is this clear? Somebody met, actually this Miss Sophia is there, so she is based out of Canada, Tamil, but when she was in a flight with this person, Dr. Tamilisai, the BJP president. So when she criticized Prime Minister Modi over there, naturally he was from BJP, Prime Minister Modi is also from BJP. So in that case, she got arrested for this purpose. Now to arrest somebody for this, it doesn't seem right. So that is what happened. So her father, fortunately for her, she is from, I guess, better off family, that he was able to take this up quickly. Otherwise, had it been a common person, would have been still in the jail only. Okay, so this happened, and so the SHRC looked into this issue, State Human Rights Commission, and it said that not at all essential to arrest this person for the charges leveled against her. Naturally, some charges will be there. It was on the flight, so something must be there, but still to arrest doesn't seem justified. Right? So this is there. Now, what do we see over here? Somebody criticizes dissents. Obviously, there is an argument over here, but somebody criticizes dissent. So very strong action is taken against that person. We see this with reference to the use of sedition law also. We see this with reference to the use of criminal defamation also. So this is known as strategic litigation against public participation. Don't say anything against the strong and the powerful, otherwise there will be consequences. And this has a chilling effect on one's freedom of speech and expression. So you can correlate this with the fundamental rights also. Okay, so this is there. Now let us look at the State Human Rights Commission. So first of all, there are two agencies. These are statutory bodies. So one is that is created by the Protection of Human Rights Act. So one is at the national level and other is at the state level. So basically the jurisdiction is different, nothing above that, right? So at the central level or something that happens in Delhi, that will go to NHRC. Rest for all other places, it is SHRC. Yeah. So when we look at this, the State Human Rights Commission is looking at the human rights violation in that jurisdiction. Now, who all are the members of this agency? So chairperson and members. So with reference to chairperson, the person has to be the Chief Justice of High Court. Oh wait, the Act was amended and now this requirement of having the Chief Justice of High Court has been changed to being a judge of the High Court also. Right, so this is one thing over here that you need to keep in mind. Okay, with reference to the central level, it is the former Chief Justice of India. Now, who appoints them? It is appointed by the governor. They are appointed by the governor on the basis of a recommendation of a committee. In fact, in prelims, it is likely that you will be asked questions as to who all are the members of the committee that recommends the governor on the appointments of the membership of the State Human Rights Commission. So you need to know the membership over here, and that is true for I think any agency, be it CAG, be it National Human Rights Commission, National Women's Commission, anything. Okay, now what are the powers? Now the powers of State Human Rights Commission or the Human Rights Commission is also that they are to investigate into the issue of human right violation. Right, so human right violation has taken place, some allegation is there, something is in the news. So in that case, they may, or somebody has complained or on a suo motu basis, that is on their own, they can investigate the issue. They can investigate, and when you are investigating, you call upon, okay fine, police, you come, you have the evidence, you have the facts, show it to us, we will have a look. So that only the court can do. So for this purpose, they have the power of a civil court and not the criminal court. Okay. Once the investigation is done and then they find that, okay, fine, something is wrong, something is amiss. So they can recommend compensation, right? They can recommend compensation or prosecution of accused. That means of so much has happened, you are only recommending things. So that means there's 2 lakh rupees that has been leveled, right? 2 lakhs have to be paid. So the government will say that we will not pay 2 lakh. So what SHRC said, it is only recommendatory. It is not, it is not binding. So it cannot be enforced upon. That is a problem. So there is a problem that it is only recommendatory in nature. Here also, this is looking into the issue of criminal law. A criminal issue over here, but the powers are only of a civil court. Okay. Then it submits special or annual reports to state legislature along with action taken on their recommendations and reasons for non-acceptance of advice. Right, that the government will give the reasons to them and then they will submit. Right, so these are basically the functions of both NHRC as well as the state HRC. And yes, I'll add to this. Now, let's say tomorrow some policy is to be made with reference to the human rights thing or some law has to be made. So there again, their view can be taken into consideration. Now, let's quickly have a look at the question and see how much of you can answer when we are doing this, when I'm reading the question. Though the human rights commissions have contributed immensely to the protection of human rights in India. Have they immensely contributed? Yes, we have number of cases where they have investigated the issue, taken up suo motu cases also, very high profile cases. We have a role in them looking into the issue of bonded labor or the encounter killings in Uttar Pradesh or any other place, right? So we have number of cases with reference to this. Yet they have failed to assert themselves against the mighty and powerful. This UPSC is saying, I have not made this, right? So against the mighty and powerful, they are not able to do much. We find them. So what if we find that there is a human rights case against the army itself? They cannot do anything. Army is not under the purview of the Human Rights Commission, NHRC, because that is the central jurisdiction. So military is not there. So in conflict prone areas where you will have these issues, they are not accountable. Okay, they don't have the power. Then we have there is a limit that if a human right violation has taken place or a case is there, but the complaint has not been made for over a year, then it cannot investigate into the issue. Right. So the question is asking us about the analyze the structural and practical limitations and suggest remedial measures. So this is one issue over here. Then as you can see, their recommendations, whatever they say, they are recommendatory in nature. Even though the people are quite reputed, right? We have the Chief Justice of High Court or Chief Justice of India who's looking into this issue. Yet, even after the investigation, their views are only recommendatory in nature. They can only recommend prosecution or recommend compensation, nothing other than that. So, as H.L. Dattu had said, he said that the former chairperson of the NHRC, he said that it is merely a toothless tiger. It is a tiger nevertheless, but without the teeth. Toothless tiger, power is not there, the bite is not there. And one more thing, it has issues with reference to autonomy, it has issues with reference to vacancies, the seats are not being filled, and that is leading to higher vacancies. And we find also other issues also, like the pendency of cases is very, very high, that is at 32.75%. The disposal rate has come down. And in this regard also, the disposal sometimes it is being done on the grounds of procedural grounds. Without hearing the case only, it is being disposed upon. So these are certain other issues with reference to the functioning of the Human Rights Commission. Now, what remedial measures? You have the problem, so your remedial measures will also flow from here only. More powers have to be given to them, right? More power has to be given to them. The issues with reference to vacancy and appointments have to be looked into. Now, what we find is issue with the membership also. We find that they are ex-bureaucrats and judicial officers. This is an issue of human rights. And we will have human rights issue from the government, mighty and powerful people, other people also, other than government also. So in that regard also, we want people who are activists, champions of the human rights, they should also get representation in such bodies to make them more effective and responsive to the concerns of human rights. Right, so these are the things that you need to mention in your answer. Now coming to the next question, and this is the question itself. You read the question now. The friction between the office of the governor and that of the elected representatives of a state are rooted in the constitution itself. This is coming from the article only. Much of the conflict arises due to the constitution itself. So between the governor and the elected representatives. And we have number of cases in the recent times, and that is why the editorial has come over here. So in this regard, we have to critically comment. No way forward, nothing, just critically comment over here. Okay, so with reference to the office of governor and elected representatives. So the governor is an appointee of the center, and he is also one of the important institutions, like he is like the linchpin where he is acting as a connection between the state and the center. Now we are finding lot of tension between the governor and that of the elected representatives. Those who have been voted into power and the one who is normally they have not been voted. And we are having these issues with the states which are having a different party at the state level and at the center party. Right. I think you can visualize this. Okay. Without me elaborating more. Okay. Fine. So vote, right? So they are elected and the governor is not non-elected over here. If the same state is there, same state, same ruling party at the state and the center, then there was no problem. It is only in those areas where there are different parties over here. So in this, the role of the governor is brought into question. So let us look at some of the issues over here. So one is with reference to the governor of Kerala, right? So we see that Arif Mohammed Khan, so we are seeing a lot of issues between the governor and the chief minister also. Then with reference to the state of West Bengal, so the chief minister blocked and there is no communication between the elected representatives, that is the chief minister and the governor. And the governor has been openly criticizing the government elected representatives, that is not that goes against constitutional morality in a way. So the governor is just a nominal head and not contesting elections, etc. He's just a titular head over here. Okay, so this is there. Then with reference to the Tamil Nadu also, with reference to the NEET bill, the bill was anyways, this bill was introduced as that the provisions of NEET that is introduced by the parliament should not be applicable to the state of Tamil Nadu. So they passed the bill. So this was naturally to go to the president, but the governor vetoed it at the earlier level. So bill that expressly requires presidential assent because of obvious conflict with the central law, but this was blocked earlier only by the governor, T.N. Ravi. Right, so we have a number of issues over here. Then I'll add some other issues also. For example, let us say this is an issue of situational discretion where no party is able to form. Newly elections have been taken place to the legislature, and no party is able to form or stake a claim on the government. That is, they don't have a majority. So in this also we find, like in Maharashtra it happened. So we find that the favor is given to the party that is from which the governor belongs to. Right, so we find that appointments are also to the office of governor is being made to those who have been politically active. All of them are politically active. Now, what this editorial over here says that the basic issue over here is that it is the constitution itself which is causing the problem. And all the issues that you can see over here, it is to do with the discretionary powers of the governor. See, read the Article 163 of the Constitution. Article 163 says that the governor will be aided and advised by the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers unless he is performing a function at his discretion. Right? So at his discretion, and there are two types of discretion. One is the constitutional discretion and other is the situational discretion. So constitutional discretion is like with the issue of bill with reference to the introduction of the President's rule, emergency under Article 356, right? Or something to do with the tribals district council. So something that is mentioned in the constitution. And then there is situational discretion, that is, there is no party that has been able to get majority in the recently contested election, or dismissal of the state legislative assembly. So these are situational discretion. So either way, it is actually the use of discretionary powers of the governor which is causing friction between the governor and the elected representatives of the state. Right? So it is this over here. Now the root cause over here is also Article 163 of the Constitution, which says that this discretionary power that is provided to the governor, it cannot be questioned in the courts. It is being barred from inquiry into whether any advice, and if so, what advice was given. So the discretionary powers, yes, the rules, the laws, norms, etc. have been very well stated over here, but still the governor has certain discretionary powers, and those discretionary powers cannot be questioned in the court. So in a way, the governor has a free hand over here, right? So the acts of the Tamil Nadu governor or the Kerala governor or Maharashtra governor cannot be questioned in the court of law. So it is because of the ambiguity that is coming from Article 163 of the Constitution. So this is the aspect that you have to introduce over here. And even the Sarkaria Commission, a commission was formed to look into the issue of center-state relations. And in fact, this was not the only commission. Before Sarkaria Commission, we had the M.M. Punchi Commission. Then there was another commission known as National Commission to review the working of the Constitution. So all of them recommended that some sort of a free hand should be given to the governor in case of a dispute. Otherwise, that it will lead to a constitutional crisis. Right, so he was in favor of such a situation, that it cannot be purely on the basis of aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. In case of a constitutional breakdown or something happens, in that case, the governor must have some sort of a leverage. So this was allowed. Otherwise, there will be a lot of litigation between the center and state at the Supreme Court. Okay, so he had recommended that this discretionary power should be there. Now this article further says that when the Constitution Assembly provided this provision, it expected that the governor, would act in a neutral way, and already the provisions are so detailed, so there was no scope of discretion at all. But still, this is happening over here, right? So this is the thing. So now when you write your answer, you have to elaborate that, see, we have these issues over here in the recent times. And the issue is because we may say that it is because of the appointment also. You can bring out this aspect that it is because of the appointment of those who have been politically active. Right. So this is there. And you can bring out the issue of a state also, where states are alleging an interference by the governor. But at the end of it, you have bring out the aspect that ultimately the root cause is the discretionary power that is mentioned in the Constitution itself. That is Article 163 that provides this express provision to the governor. Right. So this is the aspect that you have to introduce over here. You may bring out a line that maybe in this slide there is a need to revisit this provision on the discretionary power, as all the provisions are already enlisted. So that it's up to you as to how you want to present a line before this and then conclude. So when you're writing your comment on this, you have to say that is it right, wrong, this statement is correct, incorrect, right? So this aspect has to be mentioned in your answer, right? So this aspect has to be specified. And basically in the conclusion, Indians told to rush from war hit Kharkiv, right? So this has happened. So this is there. It was given in a very short notice. So therefore the students fume. This entire paper was about this only. Okay. A humanitarian corridor, Russian side has recommended that what we can do is we can provide some sort of a humanitarian corridors where not just Indians actually, but also foreign nationals can move out of the conflict zone. Right, so that is being said over here. Then it is being heard at the United Nations General Assembly, the Ukraine this thing, and it was put to vote, which condemned the Russian invasion and said that they should withdraw their troops unconditionally. So in this also we find that 141 countries voted in favor of this resolution and 5 voted against it, and there were 35 countries who had abstained from voting. Right, so this is another thing over here. Now coming to the business section. So trade deficit widens to 21 billion again as imports climb 35%. So one is, it is saying that the gold imports have increased. I have covered this earlier also. And other important thing would be definitely that our exports will be getting affected because of the war that is taking place, and our import of crude, basically the crude is getting more expensive, so we have to shell out more money to buy the fuel. So this will actually increase much more in the recent times. Now because of the sanctions, even Indian banks had an exposure to the Russians, right? They had also lent money to the Russians also. So that will also get affected. So RBI is calling upon the bankers as to assess the exposure of the banks to Russia. February manufacturing signals PMI, Purchase Managers Index. This is very important for your prelims. So Purchase Managers Index, and you should know as to which agency releases this. So it is not from the government, it is not from the NSO, but it is from an agency known as IHS Market Purchase Managers Index. Fine. So it is coming from IHS Market. Now as it says Purchase Managers Index. So when a purchase manager is buying something, and what is purchase manager buying? Imagine an automobile company, imagine Maruti. What will a purchase manager of Maruti buy? Raw materials, buy steel, fabricated things, fabricated materials. So something that is not sold to the consumer, but something that is being bought at the wholesale level. So it is an indication of economic activities or industrial activities taking place. It is a reflection of the demand that is there, but at a level earlier than the end consumer. Right, so this is there. It means that there is, if it is uptick in output, that means there is more demand also. Right, so this is there. Margin worries continue to spur job losses. The got it margin, that is the profitability of the companies is a problematic. Now you see the crude energy prices also increasing, inflation is increasing, so that will affect the margins of any company. Oil spikes as Russian supply concerns rise. Right then, so this is it. This is all I have from today's daily news analysis. Now, before concluding, I would just like to say, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for regular updates on from our channel over here. So, bye bye, take care, and all the best.